Rangers get the win in Tampa Bay, but get some horrific news about their all-star third baseman. Josh Jung has a fractured wrist. We're talking about what it means for the Rangers and more, all in this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, the Rangers are 3-1, get the 9-3 victory over the Rays in the Trop, have a 3-game winning streak in Tampa Bay. But none of that really feels like it matters as much as the news of the day. Stupid Phil Maton. I am so mad at Phil Maton hitting 3 batters in a row. One of them, he got away with it because Josh Jung apparently swung, literally adding insult to injury. Hit Josh Jung in the wrist, a fractured wrist, and Josh Jung is going to miss a significant amount of time. Now, exactly how much time he's going to miss, it's TBD at this point, but I'm just so pissed. I'm pissed. I'm sad. This sucks tremendously. You got an all-star sophomore third baseman who has had so many troubles with just random injuries. I swear, if anybody calls him injury prone, I'm going to throw hands. I'm going to throw hands. Because you would get injured too if you got hit in the wrist with a freaking fastball. You would get injured too if you got hit in the thumb with a 109-mile-an-hour line drive off the bat of Jorge Soler. That would break most people's thumbs. It just would. It's just these random freak accidents that keep on happening to Josh Jung. The broken foot, the shoulder injury. It's one after another. And even this year, the calf injury in spring training, he finally got fully healthy for opening day, and then boom, this happens. And it sucks tremendously for the Rangers, but it sucks even more for Josh Jung, who I thought was primed, still will be primed for an exceptional season. Hit his 2nd home run of the season already. The guy was spraying the ball to all fields, 3-hit day, a 4 RBI day, including a 3-run homer that really let the Rangers kind of coast in this one for the vast majority of it in that first inning with 2 outs, mind you. With 2 outs. He's exceptional defensively, offensively. He even swiped the bag in this one that led to a run, led to a throwing error by the catcher, Rene Pinto, which, stop me if you heard this before, the Rangers getting runs off of Rays' defensive miscues in the Trop. I think we've seen that movie before. But Josh Jung was arguably the Rangers' best hitter through these first 4 games. And I am so incredibly angry for him that this ends up happening. I mean, Evan Carter got hit in the foot with a breaking ball, not a lot of damage. And then Adolis Garcia gets hit in the hand, and then you start to really worry. Thankfully, Adolis Garcia stayed in. And then just 3 in a row. Random pitches in a non-competitive game from Phil freaking Maton. And your star shortstop's out for multiple months. Now, it could be 2 months. It could be 3 months. Last year, Adam Duvall had a fractured wrist, and that happened in April, and he didn't come back until June. And then Mike Trout, it took him 4 to 8 weeks to recover because he had surgery on the fractured wrist. So that's kind of the timeline to keep in mind for Josh Jung of recovery. It's almost certainly going to be multiple months. Best case scenario is like 4 weeks, and I would not hold my breath on that. This is a young man who is incredibly talented, and I think a huge part of this lineup, one of the things I talked about at the depth of this lineup is not only having the big boys in the top and Semien and Seager, but in Garcia. Josh Jung was about to enter into that mix of being one of the Rangers' 3 or 4 best hitters. Which, speaking of Adolis Garcia, congratulations to Adolis Garcia for hitting his 100th career Major League regular season home run. He did have quite a few in the postseason that took him over the 100 career mark. But he gets his 100th home run against his best friend. Well, not off of his best friend, literally, but hit it over the head of his best friend, Randy Arozarena, the same place he got his first home run. Of course, that one was a little bit more dramatic in a game-tying home run back in 2021. This one, more of an exclamation mark on an already exceptional offensive day from the Rangers offense. I mean, 9 runs, and in that first inning where it looked like the Rangers might end up wasting runners second and third with 1 out until they got that 3-run homer by Josh Jung. This offense was just wearing down Ryan Pepiot. I mean, 20 pitches to get the first out, and even that out was a productive out. It got Marcus Semien to third base for Evan Carter. And that's what this lineup does at its best. It wears you down. It's not going to be filled necessarily with 7 guys who hit 25 home runs or anything like that. It's not necessarily going to have a lot of guys who hit 40 bombs and 5 guys with an OPS of like 900. It's just everybody in this lineup consistently, continually, throughout the season, throughout the postseason, they put together exceptionally good at bats. They have a great team approach of being aggressive early in counts, usually when you get your best pitches. And then if you're not aggressive early in those counts, then if you got a pitcher on the ropes, then you make them work. You work those long counts. And that's what the Rangers did to Ryan Pepiot, who was a guy who walked, I believe, 5% of batters, maybe it was 3% of batters last year as a rookie with the Dodgers. In this game, 4 walks in 5 2/3 innings. That is not something that happens a lot to Ryan Pepiot, and those 2 base runners that Josh Jung drove in with that 3-run bomb in the first, those were both worked off of walks. Well, Seager was eliminated, and then Evan Carter took his place on the base paths. But basically, those 2 base runners were because of walks. And this is a big blow for the Rangers moving forward. Thankfully, the Rangers have a guy who's a pretty good offensive player who's going to come in and probably be an everyday player now in Ezequiel Duran. These are the kind of injuries that a lot of teams can't sustain, and I think the Rangers can sustain it, but it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt bad. I mean, you remember what happened when Josh Jung was out last year with that broken thumb? This offense really took a step back, and Zeke Duran wasn't quite able to step in and be exceptional like he was when he stepped in earlier in the season and for Corey Seager in his injury. But I do want to give a shout out to Josh Smith coming in this one in an impossible situation, a 2-2 count with the bases juiced to work a walk, a fantastic plate appearance by him in such a difficult spot to come in there at that point, work a walk and drive in a run with a walk with the bases loaded. And a big no thank you to Phil Maton for 1 inning, giving the Rangers several runs and giving us all a big disappointing way to ruin a nice win. It was a very, very nice win for the Rangers. Some nice moments from the rookie Wyatt Langford and a lot of walks from Evan Carter, who, by the way, still doesn't have a hit this season and has an on-base of 389. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. And that's what when I talk about Evan Carter's floor, the absolute worst big league player he's going to be. Not that I think he's going to be the worst or even bad. But when he doesn't hit at all, he literally has not gotten a single hit. No extra base hits, no singles, no homers, none of that. And he's still getting on base at an elite rate. I mean, this kid is just exceptionally talented, and he's still getting rookie calls on the strike zone. He is still not necessarily getting the fairest strike zone calls. And my God, once he starts getting an accurate strike zone called on him, or, not being penalized for being a rookie, which is the dumbest part of the sport, that umpires say, oh, if you're young, you're going to get squeezed. We're going to make it harder. And if you're old, then you get better strike calls if you're a pitcher or hitter. It just boggles my mind. So once he gets past that, I honestly think this guy might have an on-base percentage in the 700 range. Coming up, we're going to talk about Dane Dunning, his hot and cold day, and his pitch selection, which featured a forkball that did not go very well for him, despite an exceptional changeup. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to in-depth highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug directly into your existing TV. It provides access to millions of movies, TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you are going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep you up to date in the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't already, trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Now, before we move on from the Josh Jung injury, I do want to clarify one thing, that I don't think that hit by pitch that injured Josh Jung was by any means intentional. I don't think that that's the case. That's not where he's trying to throw it. That's not where Phil Maton is trying to throw it. And I don't think that he has any lingering resentment from the ALCS and being on those losing Houston Astros. But I do think at a certain point, if you hit two batters in a row, whether it's intentional or not, no matter the situation, a player should get a warning. And I honestly think that probably should have led to at least some kind of caution, especially when you hit a third guy in the row. I don't care if it's a swinging strike. He's still throwing dangerous pitches, and he needs to at least be warned because there needs to be repercussions. There needs to be protection for the players. So this exact thing doesn't happen. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. I don't like Phil Maton. I don't think that this was intentional by any means whatsoever. But let's talk about the play of the game. No, not the 3-run homer by Josh Jung. Not the solo homer by Adolis Garcia. Heck, not even the double by Travis Jankowski. I think the play of the game was actually a ground into a double play by Jared Walsh in the 4th inning. If you didn't watch this game, then you may be thinking I'm absolutely insane, which you might have a point, but not on this. White Langford singles in the 4th inning, gets on base, absolutely smokes a ball. And then he gets himself in motion. He was trying to get his first stolen base, had a couple attempts that Jared Walsh fouled pitches off, so he didn't end up getting the stolen base on it. But on the last pitch of the at-bat, the last pitch of the inning, White Langford was off and running, and Jared Walsh grounds into his third baseman, Curtis Mead, who took one look at maybe trying to get Wyatt Langford to second base and turn the double play at this point because there was one out, but knew he did not have a play. And as he's throwing the ball, Wyatt Langford is already at second and kind of passing it right in front of him. I think Curtis Mead hesitated for a second. Maybe he could have tagged Langford and then thrown, but it was just the kind of aggression where you say, oh, okay, he's already going to third because there's nobody covering third at this point. So that's a heads-up rookie move. It'll be 2 outs, runner at third base as opposed to second. Doesn't make that big of a difference, but still a nice heady play. And then Wyatt Langford keeps going. The catcher, Rene Pinto, comes up to cover third base just so that Wyatt Langford doesn't get more aggressive and start to run home. But he does anyway. He turns the corner. After he rounds third, the ball has just gotten to the first baseman at this point, and there's nobody covering home plate. Wyatt Langford stutter steps for half a second and then turns on the freaking jets and runs for home plate, trying to beat the pitcher out. The pitcher is about halfway between the mound and home plate at that point, and Wyatt Langford said, I can beat this chump. I'm incredibly fast. People don't realize that I'm incredibly fast. People are starting to realize that he is incredibly fast, and he just almost beat the pitcher to home plate. I think a little bit better of a slide might have gotten there. Maybe if he didn't stutter step, it might have gotten there. But the ballsiness, the audacity by a rookie to try and score from first on a ground out to third base. Technically shortstop, but third base are playing in the shortstop hole because of the modified switch, but whatever. But basically trying to go first to home on a ground out to the infield. I absolutely love it. I love it so much. I cannot overstate how little I care about him actually being thrown out. The aggressiveness, the mindset, the audacity to go for that in that situation is exactly what you want from a kid like that. I want to see this kid run like crazy. I want to see that for all of this Rangers lineup. I want to see a lot more stolen bases for the Rangers this year. I thought they were exceptionally too passive on the bases last year, especially with all these rule changes. I think the Rangers did not do a great job of taking advantage of that last year. Now, granted, I don't think they had as fast of a team last year as they do this year. Having a full season of Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford should help, I think for sure. We didn't see Marcus Semien be nearly as aggressive as he was in year one with the Rangers. I didn't like that. We didn't see Adolis Garcia be as aggressive. I think we might see a little bit less aggressiveness from Adolis Garcia, but if he's getting this many DH days, which I think he will continue to do so because he's DHing for the second time in the first 4 games already, I think that he can afford to be a little bit more aggressive on the base paths and still not do too much wear and tear to his body. Heck, we even saw Josh Jung get aggressive on the base paths and steal his first base of the season today. I love the mindset from Wyatt Langford. I love him going for it. I don't care if he's thrown out more times like that. Maybe in a playoff spot or a stretch run or a situation like that, maybe use a little bit more caution. But in that situation, Wyatt Langford going full tilt, absolutely going for it. I didn't love the feet first slide as opposed to going head first, but still, I love this kid. He is so incredibly fun to watch. Him and Evan Carter as well. The ceiling on those guys is so incredibly high. It's through the stratosphere. It is into whatever's above the stratosphere, besides just space. I feel like there's mesosphere, ecosphere. I don't know my spheres well enough. I didn't pay enough attention in science class as a kid, which, it's been 20 years since then. So maybe there's some recollection. But anyway, Wyatt Langford, speaking of science, he breaks science with how incredibly fast and strong he is and how good he is at his plate discipline already and his hard hit percentage. Going into this game, his hard hit rate was 50%. That's half of his at-bats resulted in a hard hit ball. And then he had another couple of hits, or batted balls, I should say, that were 100 miles an hour today. Because of freaking course he did. Because that's what he does. 108 miles an hour off the bat for that single. The kid just hits the absolute crap out of the baseball, and 96.7 off the bat, they fly out in that first inning. Because, of course he did. This kid is incredibly special, and I would be very, very surprised if he leaves the Trop without having his first major league career home run. He is playing in front of his friends and his family in his home state of Florida, and we're seeing how he's showing off on the bases, which has been pretty fun. And I'm ready to see him show off a little bit more of that power. His approach has been very, very selective. There have been a few takes that he's been a little too passive on. Some pitches right down the middle that he's just taken instead of absolutely mashing them. I think that's something that he will get better at as we progress. A couple of called strikes that he just let run by him that were absolute cookies, which, in case you remember that stretch run from Corey Seager is the cookie monster, just absolutely mashing those cookies. And I would like to see Wyatt Langford become a similar level of monster for those cookie-type pitches and absolutely destroy them. But for now, I will settle for insane aggressiveness on the bases, an incredibly hard hit rate, and some good old-fashioned fun on the base paths from Wyatt Langford. Coming up, we're talking about Dane Dunning, his fantastic start, and a changeup that I thought he scrapped that looked like the best pitch he might have ever thrown in this game. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. If you want to bet on those Wyatt Langford AL Rookie of the Year odds or the Evan Carter Rookie of the Year odds, you can go check them out if you're thinking that this is going to be the year that Corey Seager finally wins his first regular season MVP as opposed to just his third World Series MVP. You can go check it out. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And this was mostly a really, really great start for Dane Dunning. Overall, really loved what I saw from him. Didn't love the 4 walks in 6 and 3rd innings, but honestly, I kind of thought he should have been pulled after 6 innings, but I get it. Bruce Bochy is trying to get length out of his starters, and Dane Dunning is usually a guy who can get you that. He only gave up 3 hits in this one, but 2 of them were absolutely monster shots, including a 2-run homer that came right after a walk. And that first home run came on the dreaded forkball. I think that was the only forkball that he threw in this one. It was labeled a changeup by StatCast. That was not correct. It was the forkball that he was messing with in spring training. He was trying to be a little bit better against lefties, and that changeup last year just wasn't quite doing the job. So he said he was going to scrap the changeup and go with a forkball, which he thought would be better against lefties, but turns out he's still using that changeup. And in this one, it looked absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. You got 10 swings on that changeup, 7 swings and misses. A swing and miss rate of 70%. Absolutely bonkers. The slider was really working for him too. 6 swings and misses on 11 total swings. 18 total swings and misses. The cutter, 75% swing and miss rate on that. Just bonkers level stuff from Dane Dunning. A called strike plus whiff percentage of over a third of his pitches. It was either called strike or a swing and a miss. This is not a guy who gets a lot of swings and misses. Only ended up with 7 strikeouts, but with that many swings and misses, 18. I don't know if that's a career high, but it's got to be a career high for him. I know he had an 11 strikeout game last year where he was just going absolutely nuclear, but this was just beautiful stuff from Dane Dunning. A little bit frustrating guy with not the best stuff in terms of just pure velocity. Obviously, he makes up for the lack of velocity with great extension, with usually pretty good command. That was not the case for that forkball. I think he should maybe scrap it, especially if he's going to hang it as badly as he did that first one. Much rather than spike it in the dirt than just leave an absolute hanger out there. But still, a very, very good performance from Dane Dunning. This is the kind of stuff that you're hoping for from your number 3, 4, 5, 4 starter. He's Bradford's the number 5 at this point. But this was a nice change of pace for Dane Dunning when you see him with those strikeouts. If he had to sacrifice the strikeouts for lowering the walk rate, I would absolutely take it. Just being more of a weak contact guy. I mean, in terms of stuff, usually you don't say that a guy who's throwing 90 miles an hour has good stuff. But Dane Dunning has good stuff. His sinker was one of the best rated pitches in baseball last year in terms of overall run value, at plus, I believe, 16 last year. That cutter was also up there among the elite pitches in baseball. And if the changeup is going to look like this, then that's good stuff. The slider's also a plus pitch as well. You don't have to throw 98 miles an hour to get swings and misses or to be a good pitcher. And Dane Dunning shows that. But the Rangers also got some good performances from their bullpen. A 2 strikeout game from Brock Burke. Didn't walk anybody. David Robertson coming in a not quite leveraged situation, just on the verge of leverage and giving the Rangers a hold 1 2/3 innings, 3 strikeouts for him, no hits, just the 1 walk. I am loving what I'm seeing from David Robertson so far. I heard someone on Twitter I was talking with suggesting that David Robertson should get a turn as the closer. Well, I'm not booting out Jose Leclerc out of the pen, out of the closer's role after literally 1 shaky performance. But I do think that David Robertson will eventually get his turn as the Rangers closer. I also think that the Rangers will have some games closed out by Kirby Yates and probably even one or two by Josh Sborz. Maybe Yeri Rodriguez gets a try in there. Maybe. We'll see how the season progresses. But the good thing about a bullpen is that it's never just one guy. Relievers by themselves are finicky creatures. Impossible to predict what they're going to do. But the best bullpens have a lot of options so that if somebody is going wrong for a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, you don't have to put them into the highest leverage situations and suffer the consequences of that. That's why the Rangers were so excited about this bullpen, about the guys that they signed, about just having more guys in general. I mean, on Sunday, we saw that game where the Rangers were trailing for a lot of it or were close late, and you got to see the B side of the bullpen, the losing side. Losing, I say that in parentheses. It's just the not the top tier, most highest leverage guys you trust the absolute most. And those guys performed well. A couple of shutout innings from Yeri Rodriguez, battling out of some jams. Jose Urena looking pretty solid. We've seen Brock Burke in some low leverage situations look all right, and it wasn't that long ago that Brock Burke was a really, really darn good reliever, and I still think he can get there. But still, this bullpen having the option to throw out different guys, to throw out a guy like a David Robertson, to throw out a guy like a Kirby Yates, and to not have to use guy after guy after guy, especially early on in this season when the Rangers are going to have a long stretch of games, 17 games in 17 days, coming up starting this weekend. You got to have a lot of different guys you can trust in your bullpen. Last year, the Rangers didn't even have multiple guys who they could trust at a single given time in their bullpen until the month where it mattered the most, in October. And they had 2.5 guys they could really trust out there in their bullpen, and that was enough to win the World Series. But to win a bunch of games in the regular season, you need more than just one guy who gets hot for 2 months and then you hodgepodge it together with whoever else is remaining at that point. That's not good enough. The Rangers knew that. That's why they signed Robertson. That's why they signed Yates. And I am thinking that both of those signings are going to look really darn good the further we go into this season. But with Dunning just having another starting pitcher who I think really solidified himself as maybe the Rangers' number 3 starter. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what Andrew Heaney looks like in his first outing tomorrow. And I don't know that John Gray is going to stay as the Rangers' number 2 starter for that much longer. We'll see how these Rangers look in the end of this month when there will be a long, long stretch. The Rangers are going to need some quality performances out of all these starters. Out of Eovaldi, out of John Gray, out of Dane Dunning and Heaney and Bradford as well. And I think they're all capable of doing that. And then they're also going to need some stuff from Michael Lorenzen as well. We'll see how he factors into this rotation. Whenever he comes back, he's scheduled to be, he will be eligible to be off the injured list at some point in, I think that April 10th-ish series against the A's. We'll see when he's fully ready to rejoin the rotation and how deep he is going into games at that point. I think the Rangers will use a 6-man rotation for that 17 games in 17 days stretch, just because it's a lot of work early on, and I think the Rangers will have to do some bullpen shuffling to really keep some fresh arms available. Whether that will probably end up resulting in some guys with options who aren't pitching badly being sent down, but that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles or will crumble. I mean, we'll see. There's still so much to look for in this season, but just getting another offensive outburst against a team like the Rays, against a pitcher like Pepia, who I think is pretty darn good, is a huge feather in the Rangers' cap, a team that keeps on winning. When you are on the road, you're hoping to go 500. Rangers take the first one. They got Heaney on the mound tomorrow, and then they got their ace on the hill in the finale on Wednesday. This is a good sign, a good early sign, and again, the Rangers are just going to have to keep on floating around 500, hopefully stay in the mix while they wait for their big guns in their arms of Scherzer, Malley, and DeGrom to get healthy, and also now why they will be waiting for Josh Jung to get healthy. Wishing that man a speedy recovery, wishing him all the best. Still so angry and sad that this young man who is so talented and really just on the upswing. I mean, I really felt like this was going to be a huge breakout year for Josh Jung, and I think it still absolutely can be. I think he could still end up winning the Silver Slugger. I think he could still end up hitting 30 home runs. But if he's missing, 3 months as opposed to 1 month or 2 months, then that kind of might sour my bold prediction of him and Jonah Heim combining for 60 home runs. I think that bold prediction might have flown its course at this point. But still, wishing Josh a speedy recovery and all the best, and hopefully these stupid random injuries. Hopefully this is the last one for his career. I think he had more than enough bad injury luck for an entire career, and he is just 26 years old. That's enough, pitchers. Leave him alone. Leave Adolis Garcia alone. Stop hitting guys and keep everyone healthy, because this game is so much better with the stars playing. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.